Well, hello, and thank you for joining us again today on Rekla Reflections. Welcome to my followers and those who find teaching exciting and professional development an important part of your teaching journey. My name is Vanessa Spiegel, and I am here in the Rekla Learning Studio to talk to you today about our theme for this week: creativity as agency, imagination, reflection, and joy in practice. Today, we're going to talk about one simple truth. When students create, they learn more deeply. Creating meaning when they show what they're learning visibly. But how do we actually make that happen? How do we move from listening and recalling to imagining, reasoning, and creating? That's where the Visible Thinking Toolkit comes in, a gentle, practical guide that helps teachers make thinking visible, even in low resource classrooms. In Finnish classrooms, creativity isn't an extra. It's how students show understanding, as opposed to the traditional style with quizzes and tests. So Pasi Sahlberg often says that trust and autonomy are what build curiosity. And what that means is if the students feel safe, if they feel like their ideas and their thoughts are valued, then they will be able to be more curious about their learning. And when teachers are trusted to innovate on the admin side, students are free to imagine. So if the admin are giving the teachers the freedom to innovate and specialize and optimize their classrooms for the students, then the students will have that freedom to be curious. The same is true in CBC classrooms. For those of my followers and listeners who are in Kenya, CBC focuses on creativity and critical thinking, and they are the heart of learning outcomes for CBC. So creation turns knowledge into something lived. It's reflection in action. When students make, draw, write, or act out ideas, they're not performing learning, they're actually owning it, right? So when we get away from the traditional quizzes and tests and we get creative in how the students reflect and show their learning and understanding, then we are deepening their understanding and their ownership of their learning process. So let's imagine two classrooms. In the first classroom, students are memorizing facts about the ecosystem, right? This is a very traditional style learning. In the other classroom, they're building a model, maybe out of recycled paper, bottle caps, whatever is found in the area, in the context, showing how living things depend on each other. So it's the same topic, right? It's ecosystems. And in the second classroom, the thinking is visible, right? They're modeling, they're hands-on learning, they're inquiry-based. Students are explaining their choices, they're debating which relationships matter most, and they're reflecting on how one small change affects the whole system. So this is more in the second classroom, we're talking about small group activities, peer learning, that kind of thing. That's what the Visible Thinking Toolkit is designed to help you to do, to make learning transparent so you can actually see your students' minds at work, right? These are the artifacts that the administration and the parents want to see. They want to know that their students are learning, and rather than showing them a grade that may or may not reflect that they understand and learn, but actually showing an artifact, things that students create when they do small group activities or hands-on learning. So the toolkit is built around simple research-based routines developed through Finnish pedagogy. I also found that the Harvard Project Zero uses these same techniques, and it's adapted for low resource settings. So each section includes a purpose, a how-to, examples, and reflection prompts. It starts with observation routines like see, think, wonder, and zoom in that teach students to slow down and notice. It moves into connections and context routines, such as connect, extend, challenge, or a bridge map, helping students link new ideas to what they already know. And you'll also find reasoning routines, such as claim, support, question, and creative ones like imagine if and what else could this be? Each can be done with just chalk, recycled paper, or conversation. The guide even walks you through thinking lens posters. There are 3 example posters in the toolkit with phrases like, I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of, that keep the language of curiosity visible every day. So, how can teachers start using this visible thinking concept? Step one, start small, right? Even in the toolkit, I have a layout for how to implement this over a 6 to 8 week period, right? So, we're not talking about including all of these different tools at the same time, on the same day, in the same fashion. We're talking about just starting small, choosing one routine that fits your current topic. Maybe like see, think, wonder. That one is pretty simple to implement and is easy for students to understand, used in science, or you could use the step inside for a story character. That's another tool in the kit. Second, after you start small, second, model thinking out loud. So, as the teacher, you can demonstrate for the students how this works. So, you say your thoughts first. I see, let's say you're looking at the image of, at the beginning of a science lesson on habitats, let's choose Arctic habitats, right? So, you're going to throw up a picture for the students to be introduced to this habitat. And you can start with, I see, I think, I wonder. So I see snow, I see mountains, but they're not the kind of mountains I'm used to seeing, right? I think about how cold it is. I wonder, how does a polar bear survive in such cold, right? Then invite students to do the same. Step three, capture it. So let students record ideas on a variety of options here. You have like a wall chart where you put up sticky notes of their ideas and their thoughts. You can have them use a notebook. You could have them draw, use art, different ways to show what their ideas are. These visible traces become learning artifacts, proof that real thinking is happening, right? So when parents come in or when the administration observes your classroom, they can see the proof that your students are thinking and learning. And then the last step is to reflect together. Each of your lessons, this doesn't need to be an end of day reflection because we're not talking about just reviewing facts, right? We're talking about understanding, reflecting on the process of learning. So we end with one short question. What did creating or sharing this help you understand better? Right? So we're not just regurgitating. We're not asking the students to regurgitate some fact or idea or concept that they learned. We're talking about reflecting on how they learned. This question turns activity into insight. So if you want to go deeper, the how-to guide walks you through reflection routines like 2 stars and a wish and the learning ladder. Both are perfect for Finnish education or CVC classrooms, ongoing assessments, continuous assessments. It also includes low resource adaptations and, like I mentioned earlier, a 6-week rollout plan so you can build routines gradually until they become habits, not add-ons. Finnish teachers often describe visible thinking as learning to see your own mind. It's really interesting to begin this process with your students and to observe how many light bulbs light up as they begin this process and they start walking through seeing what they're learning. So that's the heart of this toolkit, helping students see how they think, not just what they know. Here's your reflection question for this week, because I always want to hear comments from our global teachers and our audience. So, how might your students learn more deeply if creativity led the lesson? Not the content, not the facts, but creativity. Not necessarily as a decoration, but as direction, right? As the visible learning that you want them to be able to show. Remember, when students create, they don't just show knowledge, they build confidence. And when thinking becomes visible, learning becomes joyful. And I think personally, as a teacher, if I am able to show artifacts and the kids are visibly learning, when the administration stops by, they can see that. When the kids go home and have a conversation with their parents, they will have better answers for their parents when their parents ask, "What did you learn today?" Right? They will be able to share the process of what they learned as opposed to, "I don't know," which is what kids usually give answers to. So I would encourage you to download the Visible Thinking Toolkit and How-To Guide from Rekla Learning Studios. It's full of routines, posters, and reflection tools you can use tomorrow, no matter your classroom size or your setting. So I'm Vanessa. Let's keep building classrooms where creativity leads and confidence grows. Have a great day.